Most posts on here come from the US. This one is from Scotland. There's a spooky road in Scotland. To start off, none of my family really believes in the paranormal. Myself included, really. But nobody can explain this road. My maternal family lives in the northeast of Scotland in a tiny village on a peninsula called the Black Isle. Now the village itself has some creepy places. There's the Pirate's Graveyard, so named because most of the 17th century gravestones are emblazoned with a skull and crossbones. There's Farquhar's Bay, a site where smugglers used to flash lights as though they were a lighthouse to lead ships to wreck themselves on the rocks. The smugglers would then use the caves situated around the village to hide their caches. Lastly, there's the old stables, situated halfway up a steep hill, just after the Pirate's Graveyard. Now the only reason I find this place creepy is probably because when I was a kid, they had some exceptionally strange art exhibitions on the lawn. If you've ever seen the reflective sculptures set in the Scottish woodlands, you know the kind of nope I'm talking about. Some of these places have a creepy feeling when you're there, but just the same creepy feeling as when you're telling scary stories in the woods around a campfire. That's not the same for the Eathie Road. There are two roads into the village, one along the coast, and another through some beautiful woodland known as the Fairy Glen. A different fairy glen than the one on the Isle of Skye. Apparently, we're not always the ones who've invented the names. I adore the Fairy Glen. Some of my best childhood memories are walking through the woods there. There's a waterfall at the end of a short hike where we'd bring a picnic and some food for the fairies. A rule my grandfather has always had was that if you drove past the Fairy Glen, you had to say hello and salute the fairies. But I digress. Back to the roads. So, if you take the road to the village, past the Fairy Glen, there's a fork. The Eathie Road. A picturesque, winding road taking you past farmsteads and rugged views, even a beach where you can find fossils, ammonites, and other Jurassic specimens. We drive it often in the daytime, but never, ever at night. For the record, I have never been on this road at night. Out of curiosity, I've peeked at the fork where you can divert, but my family's stories always send chills down my spine. I see the sign for the Eathie Road at night, even in the Scottish summer when it's light until 11 p.m. and I just can't make the turn. The first story I'll share is from my grandfather. A stout Glaswegian atheist, he drove the road at night 3 times as a change of scenery from the usual drive. The first, he saw a beautiful light, orbs shining over the trees. Said he'd rarely felt as calm as he did when he saw them. The next time, he excuses just being tired. A young girl appeared in the back seat of the car. He drove her a few miles down the road and then dropped her off at the path up to one of the farms. Once he dropped her off, he felt a sense of dread and sped all the way home. The dread ceased as soon as he got off the Eathie Road. The last time he ever drove the road was one autumn. It can get dark quickly in Scotland, and he found himself in pitch black, on the road, with a pale face staring at him through the window. It stayed with him until he turned back onto the main road to the village. My aunt and mom have had similar experiences with the face at different points in time. Both had boyfriends that thought the road was a load of nonsense. All involved had a face and figure follow them to the end of the road. One of my uncles saw the same lights as my grandfather. Another uncle saw a hitchhiker dressed in a posh suit but wearing clown shoes. As my uncle slowed, the hitchhiker turned and gave an inhuman grin literally from ear to ear. It had no eyes. My uncle sped all the way home. When you search this road online, there's no evidence of anything spooky, just information about the cool fossils you can find. If you're ever in that neck of the woods, feel free to check it out at night and get back to me, because I will never drive it.